So we have been working at OpenAP for a while with great collaboration across most of the national programmers at scale. And, I think this year in particular, there are more conversations around transacting on new currencies cross-platform than ever before. And even when we think about Nielsen, when we really do think about a new currency, and all these things are coming to the industry for the first time. And really, as upfront discussions continue to be had between the buy and sell side, it was really important for us to come together and announce our intention to create a new JIC in the US that will not necessarily be responsible for things like other JICs are in other places like the UK, like Barb. This will not be focused on actually producing measurement, but this JIC will actually be focused on enabling new currencies and providing greater transparency around what programmers really need from measurement companies in order to properly transact on a cross-platform basis. And why the timing is so necessary right now is everyone is really gearing up for these new upfront conversations. And we need to be clear on how we can work together and how we can transact in this marketplace. And so it's going to be very important that we put very clear guidelines out there and just make it more transparent, how a buyer can actually transact in this environment.
Now, in addition to the measurement certification with this joint industry committee, you also announced the creation of a unified streaming data set by OpenAP. Why is that a key part of this announcement?
Yeah, thanks for the question there. I mean, I think, first and foremost, making sure that we have clear standards on what's needed to transact. But probably the one key data asset that is more important, that's probably the most important thing to help accelerate both cross-platform planning and measurement, is access to a unified streaming data set across all premium publishers. It's something that doesn't really exist today and is really necessary for advancing this space more quickly. We have the ability within streaming environments to have way more closer to a census-based measurement solution. And what we really need is the ability to take all these disparate data sets, not only ingest them, but also normalize them. Because the challenge is when you get streaming data in from programmers, that streaming data comes in from all these different devices that in many cases the programmers don't own. And because they're all these different streaming devices, the way that the data comes in is always different. And so why this is an important initiative for this JIC is that the JIC will actually own the aggregated planning data set or the aggregated streaming data set, but OpenAP, as it's already been working on, will be continuing to kind of work on the infrastructure for which to resolve that data to a common identity spine with OpenIDs, to normalize that data and aggregate it, and then provide permissioning access for the programmers to give access to that data to both agencies and measurement companies that kind of comply with the right privacy protocols and et cetera. So we're really excited about this element. We think that the streaming data itself will probably be the biggest accelerant to us all moving towards a cross-platform future.
Wow, it sounds like a big undertaking. Now, looking ahead, you mentioned the upfront in 2024 as being a key milestone. So what will be ready by that date?
Yeah, so I think the plan for us that we announced is that we are going, first and foremost, this is starting with some very, key national programmers to start with. But the list that we announced is not done yet. We are there will be more national programmers joining this JIC. There will also be buy-side participation from not just agencies, but also qualified trade bodies. And part of that will be coming together to create this standard, to create these standards quickly, and a certification process that can all kick off in March. And once we're able to announce that, we will allow for any kind of measurement company to work with the VAB to go through a certification process, so there could be a lot more transparency again on what that provider has that's available for programmers to use for transactions. And so in March, we'll announce the first set of standards and start having those discussions and moving the process through with some of the major measurement companies. And that will give all the programmers, I think, a first early look and first sense of, as they have discussions with the buy side, which of these new currencies will likely be ready and they'll likely be comfortable transacting on in this next upfront year. So at least it'll give some early indications of what's going to be possible to discuss. Now, what's going to be ready? I think the goal would be that we get everyone through the certification process by the beginning of the upfront year. But realistically, that might not happen with every measurement provider. I think the goal is to start those conversations and get as quickly as possible as much information as we can, so that both the buy and sell side can make educated decisions on who they want to agree to work with and transact on in this next coming year. So I think it's a little bit of a wait and see, specifically on which measurement providers are going to be fully ready by 2024. That's kind of what this whole process is set to do. But I think the hope is, by announcing things in March and starting to engage in March, we'll have a much clearer understanding of who will be ready with what by the beginning of the upfront.
Well, that brings me to my final question, which is who is invited to participate in the JIC or JIC? Is there anyone you didn't mention?
Well, all long-form premium video programmers are going to be invited to be equity members of the JIC. And they'll be participating in both the standards body as well as providing access to the digital data, and we'll co-own that data along with the other members. And then on a standards perspective, so that creating those standards and kind of going through that certification process, we are already engaged and will be bringing in both buy-side trade bodies as well as agency leadership to participate in that process and to help create those standards that are necessary for transaction. And so both the buy side will absolutely be part of the standards piece of it, and then really any long form premium video programmers will be invited to participate more broadly in the JIC.